Hey sis, each month inside Entrusted Women University, we feature a brand new interview. You can watch the full interview only in Entrusted Women University, but you can check out this snippet right now.
Journaling, we were talking about that earlier, Kia and I, but we started journaling at a really young age, and mostly because I had nowhere else to process some of the things that I was going through as a kid. Hopes, desires, things. There wasn't a lot of space to share that with friends or with my family. And so I went to, my first journal, I named it BJ. I have no idea why. So I would write to BJ and, start processing out my feelings and thoughts. As I grew and as some of my spiritual journey shifted, that turned into kind of like a prayer space. But I think even looking back then, I can see I was a writer, just on the inside. That's how I took information in and wanted to release it out. And so was always familiar with that, had no idea that I was building a practice or that it was helping me, learn how to express myself in that.
Hey, Entrusted Women University, y'all, I am so excited to talk to Tasha Jun today to present her to you. Those of you who have never heard of Tasha Jun or heard of her book, y'all, you're going to love this conversation. I already know it, even though we haven't had it, because her book is so good. I recently finished it maybe about 2-3 weeks ago, and I feel so changed as a human being, as a person, but then also just as a writer. I'm like, I want to be better. So anyways, let me read her bio, and then we're going to dive into this conversation. Hey, Tasha, how you doing?
Hey, thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. I'm like a fangirl. I'm in the fangirl category. So, yes. Let me read her bio. Tasha is a Korean American melancholy dreamer. Never heard that before. Wife and mom who grew up in a multicultural and biracial home. She spent her life navigating liminal. I should have read this bio. I've never heard this word.
Tongue twister
Liminal
that word.
space. Writing has always been the way God has led her through the ache and towards the hope of shalom. Wow. Do you see how her writing is? Her debut book, Tell Me the Dream Again, Reflections on Family and the Sacred Work of Belonging, is available now. Go get it. Wherever books are sold. Find her at TashaJune.com or sign up for her monthly notes at shalomsick.substack.com. So I will make sure that those websites are in the description section of this video. But you can already tell, like, Tasha has the best bio of anybody I, I mean, wait a minute. What does liminal space mean? Minim? Or maybe that's a typo. Minimal?
Liminal,
Oh, that's
like
maybe
in
typo. That's not a typo.
between.
That's a word.
Yeah.
What does that
The
mean?
simplest way, like in between two things. So kind of, and kind of what I described in the bio, just feeling like I was always in between two worlds, like kind of like a threshold or doorway. Not quite here, not quite there, but in between. Yeah.
Well, praise God. Okay, you guys got a new word. If you don't know it, liminal, in between two spaces. Okay,
Mhm.
Tasha, I need you to tell us about your writing journey,
Mhm.
as best you can.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
Yeah. So I always tell people that I've been a writer for as long as I can remember, though I wouldn't have called myself one. It's kind of how I process the world and, started journaling. We were talking about that earlier, Kia and I, but we started journaling at a really young age, and mostly because I had nowhere else to process some of the things that I was going through as a kid. Um, Hopes, desires, things. There wasn't a lot of space to share that with friends or with my family. And so I went to, my first journal, I named it BJ. I have no idea why. So I would write to BJ and, start processing out my feelings and thoughts. As I grew and as some of my spiritual journey shifted, that turned into kind of like a prayer space. But I think even looking back then, I can see I was a writer, just on the inside. That's how I took information in and wanted to release it out. And so was always familiar with that, had no idea that I was building a practice or that it was helping me, learn how to express myself in that way. Just did it kind of just out of necessity. Um, and then in college, I majored in English, mostly because I love to read. And I did want to write, but was really scared of that and would never have like told anyone that that was what I wanted to do. Um, but really fell in love with my writing classes in particular, creative writing, and just kind of found a niche there where I, knew that this is how I was made, but didn't really know where to go with it. And at the time, a lot of my classes, I didn't go to a Christian school or anything, but in a lot of my classes, I was the only believer there. And so, as a newish kind of believer, I really felt like if I went down this path, um, it would be a dangerous path for me. I would be in this world, the secular world. At the time, it was very separate for me. And that's not really what I think anymore, but very much like this is the secular world and I need to move towards, all things sacred. And so, yeah, that's kind of a little blip of my writing story journey. Yeah.
So good. And having read your book, I'm just wondering, were you able to bring your full self to BJ to your journal? Or did you
Yeah.
find yourself kind of censoring your Koreanness, or just who you are? Did you find
Yeah.
yourself doing that?
I definitely share things that I would not share elsewhere. However, I think there were times where, when I was in seasons of life where I was doing a lot of hiding, particularly like trying to downplay, my ethnic identity and just how Korean I was, how Korean my upbringing was. I would avoid those things in my journal. So it's funny because it kind of, in some ways, yes, there are things in there that I let out, that I wouldn't have shared with others. At the same time, that is it was such a personal, intimate thing, walking through that hiding and being able to face that I was doing that, that I would even hide it. I can look back in some of my journals and know that, gosh, I just didn't even talk about this, Um, until I was ready to face that, I was not able to write about it.
Wow. And you're writing, the way you use figurative language, it's like drinking a glass of water. It
Oh.
just feels so natural. Like this is how you naturally talk and communicate. Would you say that that is learned? Did you learn that from
Mhm.
school, or is that just your speaking voice? Which the other thing I was going to say too, that's one of the things that people struggle with is
Mhm.
owning their voice and finding their voice. And I just feel like you have done such a wonderful job at just saying, and as knowing who you are, and then
Mhm.
your writing pours from this knowledge of who I am. I write like that.
Mm.
So I don't
Mhm.
even know what question I'm asking you. Whatever came to mind, because
Yeah.
I'm like, what kind of question is that? That's like a question statement. Question statement.
Yeah. I think it's definitely not my speaking voice, partially because I think for a long time, speaking, like voicing things out loud that I could hear, that others could hear, was really difficult for me. And so, of course, again, the journal space was easier for me. And it was a huge place where I started to find my own voice. That and then some of my writing classes. And I think having some teachers that really affirmed it. So if a little bit of, my authentic voice would peek out, they were pulling on that string. So I might have read something that I wrote, back then and thought, I don't know if this is good or not. Because in my mind, I'm still comparing it to everyone else around me, which we can still do. Everyone does. But at the time, it was so loud. Other people's voices were so loud that I couldn't even. I was writing honestly, but then alongside of all of that was like the shoulds of my writing. Like it should look like this person's. Um, but the writing teachers that I had would pull on that authentic piece. I think they just had been around enough different kinds of writing where they could kind of detect, this is you. Um, and it would hit something. It would kind of, when they would pull on that, it would strike a place in me that was like, okay, yeah, that is, and I know it is. Am I brave enough to keep going with that? So anyway, there's that piece. I think alongside of that, just from reading,
Yeah.
reading a lot, um, noticing and recognizing other people's voices and how unique they are, however different they are from mine, that really somehow develops our own uniqueness. It helps us
I
see,
agree.
our own voice. And so, and then even just reading some things that are similar and really relating to that, but then also the things that are different, like you need both. And I think that's really impacted me. But yeah, I couldn't put a finger on it. Outside of that, just like natural makeup, I think one of the things that bothers me the most is just if I detect any phoniness or just like any
Wow.
kind of lack of authenticity, it bothers me and it'll keep bothering me, until I want to go back and that's not me and I want to take it out. So whether that's in a book or just even in a conversation or relationship, it just, yeah.
Whoa. Oh, she just dropped that nugget on us for free. Thank you. Okay, so Tasha, don't be phony around here. I can so relate. This summer has been a really transformative experience for me. I read
Mm.
Beth Moore's memoir, All My Knotted Up Life. Then after that, I read Finding Me by Viola Davis. Then, or I might have been kind of cheating on Viola with you, reading Tell Me the Dream Again. That I finished Tell Me the Dream Again, and I just finished Everything Sad is Untrue. Have you read this?
Oh, yes, that's like one of my favorite books of the year.
When I started, I heard it recommended on the podcast. Picked that book up. I was like, "This is not good. I'm not going to enjoy this at all." So I put it down for like a month, or maybe two, maybe many months. I
Yeah,
picked that book back up. I was like, "Oh snap!"
I know.
I was like, "Oh my, oh."
I
This is why
know.
people say this is like the best book they ever read, and one of the things I
Mhm.
love about each of those different books is that all the authors know who they are,
Yes.
and they are who they are from page one to the final
Mhm.
page. Like Beth Moore
Mhm.
is Southern and Arkansas ish, like all the way through. I was like,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm in Arkansas. Like all of a sudden, I want some pickle pig feet, or
Yeah.
it was just very Southern. Viola was straight and to the point. Her story is very
Mhm.
hard.
Mhm.
Tasha Jun, I felt like you brought your Koreanness, your
Mhm.
analogies, your pictures, your stories. Oh my gosh. The seaweed soup, I was messed up. I
Oh.
was not a good person. I was just like, I'm not okay about this. And then the Tell Me the Dream Again, it really gave me the perspective of what it's like to be an immigrant, a child immigrant.
Mhm.
I felt so uniquely changed
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
by reading the stories of other people and thinking
Mhm.
about my authentic voice. I don't
Yeah.
know where I am. I'm nowhere. Okay.
No, I totally agree. I love talking about books. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Okay, so what's the book? And now I'm reading Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes.
Oh, okay, I haven't read that.
Okay, well, just if y'all read that, just know she drops a couple f bombs. I'm
Okay.
just gonna let you. I'm just gonna let you know. I'm still a Christian. I still believe in Jesus, and I don't drop f bombs. I don't drop them at all. But in terms of somebody who can tell a story,
Mm,
in terms of somebody who knows her voice, and
yeah.
she knows who she is,
Mm,
whether you like it or not. That girl knows who
right,
she is.
right.
But it does change you when you read the work of an author who knows who they are. They know
Yeah.
their unique voice.
Mm,
Okay, so was this book Tell Me the Dream Again, was it in your heart? Was it always in
mm.
your heart?
Yeah, yes. I don't know that I knew that it was a book, but, a lot of the stories that I shared and conversations were things that replayed in my upbringing, and in college, and I share this a lot, I took a memoir class. It was the first time I had ever read any memoirs, and I think back then, I mean, it was decades ago, so I think memoir was kinda new and, at least new in being considered a genre.
Mm.
Some people were like didn't like them, didn't wanna consider them, an actual legitimate thing, legitimate genre. So I had this professor, he taught memoir, and we read a lot of memoirs, and it just like you were talking about with just, hearing people bring their whole selves and bring their stories, it was really transformative, and it was a small class, and then at the end of the semester, we were supposed to try writing memoir, and so of course, we weren't writing books, but we were just writing something short, and so I sat down, I'm thinking, "I don't have anything to I don't have anything interesting about my life, to share." But the longer I sat, all that would come out were all these stories, and it started with this dream that I wrote about in this book. That's how that memoir, that assignment started, and it just poured out. It's like I had been holding it forever, and that was the only thing that wanted to come out, that didn't feel super forced. I mean, it was work, but it didn't feel like I was forcing something. Um, and then I turned it in and then just had it printed and then, just kept it, in a box, and I would show people. It was something that my husband and I read together, kind of like this is a big part of me, and then I put it away. And so I still didn't know it was a book until I started writing again after having our first child. And I was writing a little bit more publicly on a blog and like submitting articles, still not thinking that that was going to be what I wrote about, thinking about writing about different things. And then as I started to write more and more, it was like that just kept coming back. Like those stories, that book, that little assignment, from when I was in my 20s came back, and it's like, now it's time. I couldn't have finished it as a book then. I had lived, another 20 plus years, and there were a lot more stories that fit with those original ones. And so it was always there. Um, but I think in part because those are the stories my mom told me and the ones that I lived, and they kind of finally fit together, and it was time to tell them. So yeah.
Mhm, mhm. Did you have an agent, and a contract when you wrote for, Relevant?
No. Mm-mm. I
Because,
didn't.
honey, that was your breakout moment right there. I was like, "What?" When I tell you I went and watched, what is it? Always Be My
Yeah,
Maybe or my Someday My May what is it?
yeah.
What was
Always
the
Be My Maybe. Yeah.
Yes, girl, I was like, "I need to go. I need to be more. I need to be in touch with the Asians in the world. I just need to be diverse." I was just like, it was such a
Mm.
well-written a
Yeah.
well-written article, and I think it was kind of a coming out. It felt like a coming out or a coming something.
Yeah.
Did it feel like that?
Yeah. Yeah. It did. And I didn't even it was kind of a fluke to kinda I submitted it I had never submitted anything to Relevant before.
You said it was
So,
a fluke.
not a fluke, but just I not a fluke, but I just, I had no idea what was gonna happen with it,
So
I
what was
just,
the
like, turned
response?
it
What was
in
the
on their
response?
little generated thing. I don't know what they do now. So, yeah, and it was like, maybe I won't sometimes you turn stuff in, you don't hear anything, so, yeah.
But what was the response? What was the response?
You mean from readers or from yeah. There was a big response. I think it really hit a chord with a lot of other Asian Americans, and I think and just a lot of people who have known what it feels like to not be represented, um, and then what it feels like to suddenly, especially as an adult, to find that and to feel that, gosh, like it's a joy, it's worth celebrating, but then you also feel that grief of like an entire lifetime so far of not having that. Those 2 things
Mhm.
kind of
Yeah.
are felt together. It's interesting, I tried to explain it to my kids recently because, we have a long ways to go with representation, but I
Facts.
think but I think my kids are experiencing something really different than I am. They're seeing things, a lot more readily than I ever did, and so I'm curious what it's gonna they know that there could be a lot more. but I don't think they're gonna feel the same level of grief, that some of us I don't know, we'll see. But yeah.
Yeah. It's here, then it's not.
Yeah,
Here, then it's not.
exactly.
I'm currently obsessing over Crazy Rich Asians and thinking about changing it to my favorite movie.
Oh, that's so funny. I love it.
My favorite my favorite movie, it has been for the longest, Pretty Woman.
Mm.
But and the first time I saw Crazy Rich Asians was on the plane,
Oh, yeah.
and I fell in love with that movie so much. I could not I didn't finish it. So I'm Google searching, where can you watch it? And I'm contacting my husband saying, I need you to buy this movie. I need you to rent the movie on Amazon so that I can finish
Mhm.
it. He's like, are you serious? You wouldn't spend $3.99? I was like, I have to know what happened. I'm not gonna
Yep,
be okay.
you're invested.
So yeah, so then we just recently went out of town on a flight, and I was scrolling through all the options of things to watch, and I was like, I don't want to watch any of this. Oh, Crazy Rich Asians. Let me watch this again. I didn't finish it, and I was like, I want to see it again. So I watched it going. I watched it coming back, and I feel like I want to buy it now because it has all the elements. I'm a hopeless
Mhm.
romantic. Um, I love the representation. I think I
Mhm.
read an article on it that was saying like it was primarily majority Asian cast.
Mm.
Maybe two people
Yeah.
were not Asian.
Mhm.
Then it has a makeover component because we need that.
Yeah.
And the wedding scene
Oh, yeah.
was
That was
ridiculous. We're
beautiful.
supposed to be talking about books. But
I know.
anyway, why am I
Yeah,
saying this? Because representation matters. That's why I'm saying that.
right.
Is that and I think that the movie had such an impact that
Mhm.
they were like, okay, we're gonna get the sequel in production.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so now there's a sequel, and they'll probably do the sequel after that.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, it matters, and when we don't have it, we're missing so many
Oh, yeah.
rich
Yeah.
stories.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And we need it, I need that diverse representation, not just from Asian Americans, but everyone.
Hey sis, I hope you enjoyed that interview snippet, and I want you to be sure and check out Entrusted Women University by visiting membership.entrustedwomen.com to see the interviews in their entirety. And join us next week for more content to help you on your writing and speaking journey.